Hopefully, you're having a great day today. In this world, it seems like there's so many things going on. You have more developments in the quantum market, more developments in the AI market. Space tech has been growing fast, and we're seeing a lot of new developments in the space networks being developed in space, from 5G networks to new satellites that are getting launched, and even expanding to put footprints back on the moon again. And so there's a lot of amazing new technologies. You got AI with near AGI type of behavior, where AI is now doing massive research projects and doing the research for you. And it's a really amazing time to be alive. And if there was any time that we could choose to be alive, right now would be one of those times that I'm super grateful to get to experience that. And so, cheers to everyone here, because today is also a special day, as we're just about to hit 30,000 subscribers here on the channel. Really appreciate you all, and super cool to see that we've been able to have an impact here. And honestly, when it comes to this growth, I didn't expect us to be growing this fast. We just started doing this literally back in like November, December of last year, and we've grown so fast this year. And I just want to say thank you all for the amazing support as we reach this 30,000 subscriber milestone. So Biggie, thanks for tuning in. What's going on, Biggie? So I thought I'd bring the live chat there. I thought I would bring the subscriber count on the right. Boom, there it is, 30,000 subscribers. Appreciate you all. What an awesome time to be alive. Thank you guys so much. So let's jump into it, shall we? All right, so first thing we want to actually go over today, it's going to be Big Bear AI. So we got some predictions, we got some comments there with Taro looking at APLD. Yeah, APLD is definitely one I would see 20, 30, 5 years from now. Man, that's we actually did a breakdown like that yesterday. I think APLD is, if they're building the data centers for companies now, in the near 3 to 5 year horizon, it looks like that's going to be one of the best markets for them, and they're a really great play in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, there are certain things that I might be getting ahead of myself that might totally impact the AI market and totally impact data centers. And that could be, and this is, again, very far in the future, a little bit speculative, but I think there'll be a time where we're going to think it's crazy that we have these massive data centers that are taking up so much power. And it will be similar feeling to malls, for example, how many malls are kind of going out of business, or like getting empty, and they're like, what do we do with all this space because of the internet. And so I think at some point, maybe GPUs, or all the massive amount of space for all the computing power that's needed, we're going to get more and more efficient, and it's going to cost less, and it's going to be easier. And then these huge data center buildings are going to be this afterthought of like, what? We don't actually even need these huge data centers. I think that's where we're going. What do you guys think? Do you think is that just way too far off? I think that it's quite possible, but we'll see what happens in the next 5-10 years. But for now, yeah, I think it's a really good market. So APLD stock, or BBAI stock here, we're seeing some positions in the company long term. We do have some long term holdings. We saw them bounce a little bit after hours, and they have had this sharp decrease, kind of similar to what we saw last few times that they've made those runs up to $8 and $9. But every time that they've done that, we've always, we started covering them around basically $1 a share. And I remember there was times where, like, do you see this chart right here, how it looks? Like, this is actually how the chart looked on Big Bear, but on a much smaller scale. Let's go down to like a 4-hour. On a much, much smaller scale, Robinhood has a glitch on their platform. If you go down to the 4-hour, they no longer let you scroll back in time. They used to allow you to do that. They have a glitch on their platform. And I've sent them a video on how to fix it. And you would think that if you're seeing ads, man, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm getting too frustrated. But if you see that I'm working with them, you see ads with my face on it, and that they're running ads with me, and that I'm one of the top users of the platform, and that I've told them this. I've sent Loom videos, and it's been here for like a week where it's like it doesn't show. Anyway, I'm not frustrated. I'm just a little bit disappointed, I guess. But I think they'll pull through. Maybe they were too busy having a super amazing earnings report the past 2 days. They basically doubled their revenue recently. So congratulations, and Robinhood's on the right track. But yeah, anyway, they should fix that 4 hour thing. This is how the chart looked on Big Bear right here in December of last year. And we were saying, wow, it shot up to $4.50. Let's see if we can get maybe a little bit better view here. There we go. Maybe we can get the... Can we go a little bit smaller? There we go. That's better. They were up at that $4.50 price point, and they sold down to $2.50. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, look at this big crash. That was in December. And then they went from $5 down to $2, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, look at this big crash. But I was like, this isn't a pump and dump type of... a lot of people see something like this, they're like, oh, this stock is done. But I was like, this isn't a pump and dump behavior. This is actually something that is, they're building value. And as they're continuing to grow, it doesn't look like this is a one and done thing. I think they're actually building the infrastructure right now to continue to grow. And so they did continue. By February, they hit $10 a share. And then now we're starting to zoom out. And now you see them, they sold down to the 200-day moving average at around 250, and then jumped back up to $8.50 a share before jumping up or back down to the 200-day moving average, and then up to $9 a share. And they have not had that kind of like pump and dump characteristic. No, it's actually been more of this market cap build behavior. And so you got Luca. Luca says, hey, Will, how do you think the government shutdown can vote tomorrow? Yeah, I mean, if we see the government reopen, it's really good for Big Bear. You see some of the defense stocks looking green after hours today, plus percentages. And I'm glad to see Redwire somewhat recovered, about 10% after hours there. So we'll see how the government shutdown impacts. In general, government shutdowns and the market following government shutdowns is bullish. So Big Bear AI, again, we've been projecting them, up into this $5-7 range. They've got up to $9 a share, and then they sold back down here into about $5.80, and then recovered here $5.50, and they're at that 200-day moving average once again. So very key level. You're kind of watching this overall uptrend take place. We're looking for potential recovery and for them to continue this uptrend. Now, hey, what's going on, Superborn? How are you doing today? How are you doing today? How are you doing tonight? I was going to say today or tonight, but depends where you're at. I think it's still daytime in some places. It's nighttime here in Buenos Aires. And so when we take a look at Big Bear's recent developments, a couple things to note. We're looking at the projections here on the stock. Let's get an analysis going. We had an analysis going here on Big Bear. Get a fresh analysis from Grok. So Big Bear AI is starting to see more contracts in the last year. And they started to, we could kind of see the recent announcements, but work into the Panama Canal and deploy their AIs monitoring the Panama Canal. You can see that management solution there, which is a big place of power. But then shortly after, and in the same breath, they've also massively expanded in the airport security. And so we do see the VeriScan technology that is scanning the faces of individuals at the airports get deployed more heavily over the last year. The VeriScan technology is great technology for the US government. Slightly worrisome that they do the right work in order to realize the power of all of the data that they're getting. They're going to be getting millions of people. They're already getting millions of profiles. And how they manage that data responsibly is critical to the integrity of their company. Because if they manage this data well, then they're going to, and they do it in a way that will benefit society more, which it seems that they're doing, then you're going to have them secure more government contracts and most likely do quite well. And so, but there has to be integrity around the data management. There's a ton of data going in and out of the airports, as we know. And if they do a good job and they do manage the data with integrity, then you're going to see this company as a top AI company in defense. And we're already seeing them deploy at Denver International Airport, Nashville, Chicago is one of the recent announcements. And then we saw them deploy, they have the list of different, the passenger processing biometric technology at the major ports of entry. What we're looking at here is JFK, Denver International Airport, Los Angeles, and Port of Seattle. And so big deployments in major airports means that they're most likely going to see more revenue in the future, and they got their earnings coming up next week. So earnings coming up next week. They are partnered with Palantir. That's something to consider. They had a negative net income last time on a goodwill impairment. They had okay revenue around 32 million, but most of the financials didn't look good on the income statement. The balance sheet looked good, and they increased their cash, got more backing, and increased their cash of short-term investments up to 440% year over year. So their total cash increased. So there wouldn't be any reason to worry about the company having any initial struggle, or they're going to have some initial struggles in the deployment of the Veriscan, but they're already into these airports, and they already have the cash now and the runway to propel them further, along with if they get the net income back down into some of those more favorable ranges we saw in 2024 of, let's say, negative 10 to 15 million, and they continue to keep the revenues that they're at, they've got ton of runway, basically infinite runway at this point. So when we're looking at the growth of the company, you got to look at some of the projections and the levels, because they did just break that $6 price point, but they're now at that 200-day moving average, the 100, or this very consistent uptrend that we're talking about here. And so when we're looking at the analysis here, one thing to consider is when we're looking at the AI analysis from the machine, we were seeing some, let's see if it functions here. The projections over the next few weeks, if we were looking at this projection about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, everything was kind of red. And there's a few reasons why the AI was projecting that. I know if you ask ChatGPT, it might not know. It might say it's bullish, or Grok, it might not know. But we use OpenAI, ChatGPT, Grok, and all the best AI models that are available, but we give them the data to make the decisions. So we actually, for example, some of the data that we have been putting into the models and into our machine here is the government shutdown data. Now, with $400 million in daily compensation being lost with a government shutdown, there's furloughed workers of 750,000. 750,000 people are basically unemployed. And this shutdown is the longest shutdown in history. And you see that the average return in shutdowns is actually a positive market return. And so when we're doing the analysis, this is very important that the AIs have this data, because I think now if we look at the next week, things are actually looking more green. And if we look at the next month or 3 months, things are looking more like green projections for most stocks in the defense sector. Because there's been some red projections from the AIs, and I'm getting questions, well, why is it negative here? if you look at the impact, yes, the market statistics indicate that 10% returns are normally seen during a government shutdown. But that's one piece. That's in general in the entire market. When we're talking about defense sectors specifically, the defense sectors have negative 8% returns. That's not something that's really sustainable if the government continues to shut down and also has the longest shutdown in history. That's not a sustainable negative 8%. In fact, we're probably going to see worse than that. And we have kind of seen worse than that. So now that we're kind of through the worst, most likely, of the government shutdown and we can see them reopen, these projections from the AIs, I think, considering the data, is looking a lot better. And so that's kind of the deal with Big Bear. Again, as we look at the levels currently, they've sold back down into this level of support, this rising support level, and we're looking for them to hold. They've had a steep slope, but again, in the long term, I'm continuing to add to my positions. And in the short term, I don't have any active trades on the stock, but we're back down to where they were after the last earnings, and their earnings are coming up on Monday. So this could be a very volatile time. It's possible we see a big rocket or a continued sell-off and a break-in pattern during earnings. So I would not say that anybody should, necessarily place call options right around the earnings that are coming up. In fact, I would just most likely I would wait for direction after the earnings report. So very, very clear example. We saw a huge correction on Big Bear AI last time in their earnings. And then there was a trade. We immediately started trading Big Bear AI, even though we were down tens of thousands of dollars when that happened on our long-term position, which it did recover, but we're still up in general on that position at $2.80. But shortly after, we were trading it and it went up to 27% gain. 27% gain in just one day after earnings. And so we want to watch the direction after earnings. We want to have a good idea of how things kind of move into this next week as they report earnings this next week. So we'll be watching closely. We also have some targets coming out inside of StockMate, which if you haven't seen, we usually have targets for the upcoming week here. You can see the earnings targets, all the different companies, what we're projecting for each company. And then when those companies are reporting earnings, either pre-market or after hours, we already share this publicly. But if you want those targets on the different companies and you would like to get the community of like-minded investors, there's a lot of great press releases. Lawrence is always on it. We have 28 millionaires here in this community. And then we have about a couple hundred beginners and intermediate investors. So you get the full scale of very experienced and not experienced. And then you're also getting, if you have any messages with me, you can send me a message and get our live trading sessions every morning, Monday through Friday at Market Open. So that's going to be the second link below for the daily live trading in StockMate. And also, while we're at it, we were just kind of looking at the AI projections, and let me see here real quick. I was going to see how things are going in the chat. How is everybody doing before I continue on to this new announcement that we had come out today? Are you not concerned with BBAI declining sales year over year and declining margins? There is definitely going to be some emphasis on the negative returns that they've had. But you have to look at a few things. First of all, you could look at the chart, and that's kind of a good indicator. You see this overall uptrend down to the 200-day moving average that we're kind of mapping out here. That's the first thing. But the other thing to consider with Big Bear, even though you see those negative revenues you're talking about, or not revenues, but not enough revenue to turn positive, basically, their negative net income, is the balance sheet increasing. So the balance sheet growing, that's one thing. And then so you see investor sentiment actually increasing. And then the other indicator is the best investments that you make oftentimes won't have perfect financials right away, or at least the most explosive. Now, there's also obviously a caveat that it's like more risky when you invest in a company that hasn't shown tremendous growth. But we have to remember with Big Bear in their restructuring, in a matter of like 3 months, they got a new CEO. They had partnered with Palantir. They started deploying these very scan technologies, and their CEO was a previous, let's see where he was. It's Kevin McAleenan, acting secretary of U.S. Department of Homeland Security. That was during the first Trump administration. And then also the commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, which specifically for a company that's working on the very scan technology at the airports for the facial recognition, and then also working in the Panama Canal, actually makes a lot of sense to have a CEO that was previously in Border Patrol, like that would make sense for their growth and the expansion of the company. And then they're in the AI sector at a time when the big beautiful bill recently gets passed, and you're going to see more defense spending in that area. Now, I'm not, on any, there's no political view here. I'm not here to say like you should buy this company, or that this company, everything that they do is perfect. And in fact, we've had a lot of things that we don't like about them. In fact, I think they could be way more transparent in their earnings calls. This earnings call, I will be majorly disappointed at this company if they do their earnings call and at the end of the call, they don't take investor questions and they say thank you and it's a recording and it's done. The best companies have the most transparency, the most integrity, and the most openness to feedback. That's what makes them wise. That's what makes them great. And so when they have these earnings, they would be foolish not to allow investors to ask questions, because most investors investing in a company have amazing ideas. There was this investor that I was just talking with recently about our machine app, okay? And I was just kind of showing you guys it does projections for AI. This is our company here, this app. And if there's one thing that you'd find from investors, you would think that it is the money that they give you, right? Not true. The investor I was talking with recently gave me a really great idea. He gave me this awesome new idea to implement refreshes on individual components in our app, and then also to do a more real-time effect of showing people news on our homepage that can show them how we're using that data to aggregate it and do extremely high-level analysis for financial predictive analysis here with AI. And I'm like, these are great ideas. The best ideas in our audience don't come from subscribing and liking and things like that. They come from you guys bringing your ideas. I could probably find a goldmine of ideas right now in the live chat. Like, that's how good it is. Same thing with StockMate. Like, the best part about StockMate here is not that there is 28 millionaires. It's that some of the insights from certain investors here are very good, very, very good insights. And so what Big Bear AI is terrible at this moment is bringing in the ideas from their investors, because they aren't even doing open Q&As in their earnings calls, even after reporting that loss last quarter. And if they don't do that this quarter, they better have a really, really great positive net income, if that's the case, right? That's what we look for. So that's the case right now. Luca, what's going on? Thanks for tuning in. Let's see. JMC, are you not concerned? I'm not really concerned. I think it's going to be, right now, JMC, I think it's actually a good position to hold long term that I'm holding, but I wouldn't encourage anybody to buy or sell. It's just a matter of personal experience. And, you win some, you lose some. This company doesn't make up more than about 5% of my portfolio, but I do hold it. What's going on, Thomas? Hi from Berlin in Germany, guys. Let's go, Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in, man. That's so cool to see somebody from Berlin in Germany here. I would love to go there at some point. It's actually one of the top places that I've been wanting to go. That, and I'd also like to go over to Geneva. There was a quantum computing conference recently in Geneva, and there was someone at IBM that invited me to go to this conference. I don't go to conferences much. Sometimes we go, and I wasn't like super excited, but I was like, this is gonna be cool. And I didn't end up going because we went to Argentina, and I don't regret it actually. But I would like to go to Geneva at some point as well. JZeb, hi Will. What are your thoughts on Supermicro Computer after the missed earnings? I'm having second thoughts as a long term. Okay, so a couple things. The moat on Supermicro Computer is smaller than other companies that are in data centers. They don't have their own chips. They primarily focus on the racking systems and the cooling systems that hold the GPUs. And so some of those GPU companies are finding cheaper alternatives for those racks, or they're building their own racks. And so Supermicro Computer saw a decrease. They're not one of our top company. They are in our list right now, I think, in semiconductors. But yeah, I mean, they will most likely, they're a multi-billion-dollar company. They've seen some growth. The overall projections for them is that they overcorrected. And if you look at where we were watching them recently, it's been a while, but last time they were down here around $40 a share. We were looking for a 39% increase up to about $58 a share. That was exactly what they did. But they just corrected on earnings, I see. And they never have really positive reactions to earnings. I have been burned on Supermicro Computer earnings before. This earnings right here, I remember I opened up a small position. It was right around the elections. I crushed it on Tesla, and we traded TSLL, which was one of the best trades. But what you'll see, we might go under 30,000 subscribers. We just hit it this live stream. We just lost one subscriber. I'm watching this thing. But then right after that, we were holding, even though Tesla went well, oh man, Supermicro Computer dipped from $48 down to 17, and I held that thing for a long time, and then it made its full recovery and more up to 50, 60, $62. And we just see another sell down on earnings, and it could be a similar point, because if you look last time it sold down right here on their earnings on the 1st of November right here, they sold down basically from $50 down to $17, and then they recovered all the way back to $48. It's like over a 100% increase after earnings. And so just kind of watch, what I would expect. I wouldn't expect it maybe exactly like that, but you do see Supermicro Computer in a similar situation they were in last earnings. And I think last earnings, they even sold off for about another week after that negative earnings before they made the full recovery. So they might bleed for a while. But that's kind of how it looks, JZev. And I don't know if you were saying that because you were holding them. I think long term, they're probably good. Just look at their real world usage. That's probably going to be a key one. What else do we got? Thomas, is Big Bear AI numbers after hours? I got to look at that. Let's see what they were saying. We'll take a look here, Thomas. November 10th, they're reporting earnings 4:15 Eastern time. Got it. So about 6:15 p.m. here in Argentina, or 1 p.m. in Pacific time. Yeah, just after market close, they'll be reporting earnings. Big Bear AI there. Yeah. And so in the quantum, I wanted to get into something on quantum that I really want to share with you guys. But before we do, again, let's see what's going on. Gary, what's going on, Gary? How are you doing? Thanks again for the months of info. Man, I appreciate it. One of the coolest things about hitting this 30,000 subscriber kind of milestone today is you would be surprised how many of you come back every day. It's amazing. I'm actually I if there was one thing that blew my mind about our subscribers analytics, which I do look at, I don't always look at it, but it feels great to look at it. It's a really cool thing because I can see where everybody's tuning in from. Like when Thomas is like, I'm tuning in from Berlin, Germany, I'm like, that's so cool. And so we have a ton of audience in, I could actually pull it up. Let's see if we could pull it up here. I could show you, you guys want to see some analytics, not on a stock or the YouTube stock. Let's see how it looks. Let's see, our views are up, our watch time is up, all that stuff is up. Things are doing great. But if you see 316,000 views this month so far, and then you look at the audiences, this is where it gets really interesting. The audience is mind-boggling because we'll get 7 to sometimes 10,000 viewers that are returning viewers, meaning people that come back. So over like 1/3 of our audience sometimes or more returns again and again. And I find that to be so cool. And then the other thing that's interesting is our top geographies, because we definitely have New York. New York is our number one city. I think Wall Street, we always are, you know, especially if we're doing something with our AI tool. I have people commenting with our AI tool all the time and they say, what is the projection for this? What is the projection for this? Because they know. And also we have some customers from Wall Street that have been purchasing it. I know they're from Wall Street because I could see their analytic or where people are buying from, and also how much they're using it. They use it a lot more. And so if I look at New York right now, New York is our top city, and then you got Los Angeles, London, Singapore, Houston. Singapore is a big one, and then we definitely, yeah, Hong Kong for sure. You got Toronto, San Francisco, San Jose, Las Vegas. It's always really cool to see that view. And so anyway, I tell you guys that because as we're growing, we just hit 30,000 today. I just want to say thank you so much. I'm very transparent with you guys how things go. It's been life-changing for me to start the YouTube channel. Before this, you know, I worked in institution. I worked at a real estate company doing marketing for them, and also building some of their systems, like things that help them get deals, for like real estate deals. And you know, the change was now we do YouTube, and YouTube actually is like full time. I do YouTube all the time because I like to do it. We're up every single morning. We do StockMate. You can even see like just revenues and stuff from having the YouTube channel. It's pretty cool. YouTube compensates us the way that they do. It's very pretty consistent, and it keeps me you know, in a position of like, hey, we can, like, these are the types of things I see. I'm like, all right, let's make sure we're getting all of our new StockMates new t-shirts. Let's pour it back into making your experience better and building out the machine. And so with the machine, you know, we've actually jumped into quantum recently. And so this is kind of the next thing. Can I share with you guys? Do you guys care? Can I share with you the new technology that we're adding in quantum? You guys want to see? John, great pointers. Will, thanks, man. John, appreciate you. John, you're going to love this. Can you stick around for a minute here? Can I show you guys? John, are you ready to see a new feature we just added to the machine? John is one of our users. He locked in the 1-year license. This is gonna blow your mind, John. Get ready. So Kevin really has to show this. Kevin really has to show a vision. What do you mean? What are you talking about, Thomas? I don't understand what you're saying. Dean, you got 76 million shares. Oh, need to be rebought on the company. Referring to BBAI. Tron City says, hey, remember the 80s? I don't. I was born 1999. November 11th, 1999. But did you know my birthday is 112299? Kind of strange. Kind of cool though. I always like that. Whenever I play sports, my number was always 11 because it goes into all those numbers. Anyway, Jzev says, yes, let's do it. Yes, crazy roller coaster. Thanks for the info. Started a super microcomputer position. Yeah, so yeah, again, super microcomputer, super volatile. It's not guaranteed they go up because they do have some competition and they aren't specifically semiconductor. They're more in the racking systems. But I believe that they're seeing more growth with Nvidia and they're worth continuing to watch in the market. And that's why I have them on our list right now. Let's see, Jzev, what's your take on Navitas? Personally, I've not been bullish on Navitas Tarot because they, I think, had really great marketing, but they didn't have any. They did a lot of articles about how big the market was, and to me, that's a red flag. When I see a company doing a lot of articles about this is how big the market is, and did you know this market's expected to grow to this? To me, that's an executive frame that is broken in integrity, and that they're basically saying, look how big the market is, look how big the market is. And they're telling these investors, look how much money is being spent in this market, but they're not focusing on servicing the customer. They're not focusing on providing value to the marketplace. And so when we saw that happen, I'm like, why would Navitas go up so much if we're not seeing the real world usage as much? And so personally, I just haven't been bullish on them. I don't know what they're doing right now. Oh my gosh, what a sell down. So last time they were up here around $12.75. We had a outlook on them to see them sell down from about $12.75 to 24% sell down. I was anticipating down into that $9 range. People didn't really like that analysis, but because they're holders. But as you could see, you could look at the trend, the kind of overall trend. They sold down not 25% we were projecting. They sold down further, about 30 or 40% down to $7. So they are in the semiconductor market. And so it's actually good. It's a healthy correction, and they might continue up, and they might even be bigger than $17 in the future. It's quite possible in the market they're in. And so again, that's kind of taking that view of like the market they're in. I know we just talked about that. But what I'm saying is the market that you choose to invest in is important. But I would look more at their value to the marketplace, how much their financials have improved. I don't know if they've improved, and their real world usage that they have, which is probably the biggest thing with Navitas that we didn't see was real world usage. So Taru, hopefully that's helpful for you. John says, hi Will, GSI Technologies, the future? I don't know, Austin. What's going on with GSI? Are they the future? You tell me. What's going on with that company? Two Brothers, 1399. Hi Will, where is Redwire going from here? What does the machine say? That's a good question. So let's jump back into the machine here for a sec. Did you know that we have been eagerly looking to add analysis via quantum? And that what we just released today, such a soft release. This is the release. We're going to get a stage. I know we're going to have a stage and we're going to do real public releases. And we'll probably do that soon. But take a look here. We just added something very interesting. Do you see what these say here? These jobs completed. Does anybody see this? Job completed. Job completed. Does anybody see this? Does anybody see the job completed? What if I told you that these jobs that were completed was us taking the AI analysis and after we automated the analysis, we ran the analysis through quantum computers. That's right. You could see completed job via the Rigetti Anka 3. Completed job via simulator Ionic, the IonQ quantum computers. And so I can actually tap this in, and I could search BBAI, which is where we are. And I don't know if it's going to work. Is it not working? This is why we need a presentation stage, so that when I introduce new features, I don't have a bug, because I didn't talk to the developer at all, Mr. Ryan Potts. We did not have a conversation about me sharing this publicly. But if you're a user of the machine, probably by the end of this weekend, you'll be able to easily use IonQ and Rigetti to do quantum analysis of the AI model projections. Let's go. All right, guys. I'm excited. It's such an exciting day. We hit 30,000 subscribers today, so that's been really cool. We got the quantum analysis getting released. John Hopkins, like, with the mind blown emojis. That's how I feel today. That's how I feel today too. And yeah, so to answer your question, where does it say? Let's see for Redwire here. RDW, we're getting analysis for who is asking for the Redwire analysis. Two Brothers says, "Hey Will, can we get that analysis?" Of course, we're doing that. We're getting the analysis right now. It's loading up, checking the verifiable sources. When it looks at the charts, it doesn't just look at the charts, it ties the relativity. So according to Grok, Redwire is in a bearish divergence, and it's anticipated to have some sell-offs. Pretty bearish according to Grok. But over the next month, it's anticipated to recover. But what it's probably considering as well here is the defense market. The defense market is really getting hammered right now with the government shutdown. But right now, the relative projections are fairly bullish in the next month to 3 months, and then looking kind of bearish in the next 6 months. That's Grok's analysis. I think a more well-rounded analysis that we might want to consider is going to be Claude. Grok is great for considering the conversation over on X, over on Twitter, and you can see some of the projections on the near term pretty bullish over the next week for Redwire. But I would say that the academic approach might be more favorable for Redwire, as they're more academic, they're more in the defense sector, they work closely with the government, they're fairly tied to the top industries like Lockheed Martin and Northrop Grumman, and working with Rocket Lab and things. So I think we should just take a look and see if the projections vary. In fact, another feature we recently added into the machine is to be able to look at the different AI model projections all at once. So let's actually get that going right now. Okay, so according to the next week in Claude, it's pretty bullish. Claude is very bullish on Redwire over the next month or so. You can see some of the projections over the next 3 months, 12%. Claude is very bullish on the next 6 months of about 20% gain, and then about 31% gain over the next year. And I think that's even conservative. Now, if we take a look at the projections from Claude, I think you gotta, and this is something I'm gonna make, there's still nuance. I wish I could say it just does everything for you right away and you don't have to think at all. Just look at the projections and it's perfect. But there's also a nuance you got to consider around the industry you're looking at, which models might be the best for that industry. Shorter term trading tends to be more accurate with Grok because it's monitoring Twitter and X and everything that's going on. Whereas longer term, more fundamental plays seem to be more accurate with Gemini because it considers Google's news and Claude models and things like that. So if you just X out of these and we pull up this widget here, I gotta talk to Ryan because it looks like it says the word bullshit, but it just says bullish. Um, and so if we look over the next, let's say 3 months, moderately bullish Gemini has a $9 target. Claude is projecting fairly bullish as well, above $8.30. Grok is a little more on the bearish side, and OpenAI is bullish. So we're going to get to a point where you can see general consensus, which you can kind of come to that on your own right now. But looking at all the AI model projections in one place is what we have here. And I can see pretty clearly that general consensus over the next 3 months is bullish. Over the next 6 months, you got OpenAI is bullish, Claude is bullish. We don't have a projection showing there for Gemini on the 1 year for some reason, but actually for the next year, every single AI model is bullish on Redwire, including Grok. So 15% bullish on Grok, 10% OpenAI, 40% on Claude. So again, very bullish. They're projecting up into that $11 price target or higher into 2026 for Redwire. So yeah, that's kind of the machine and using some of the power. Wow, that was pretty cool. Did you guys enjoy this? All of the new features we're adding into the machine. I would love to run this quantum analysis with you and have it work. I don't know if it's going to work. RDW. Yeah, I'm not sure that it's fully functioned, but we should have this up and running very soon. And I appreciate you all for tuning in and kind of witnessing that. Awesome. We're hanging right around 30,000 subscribers. Nelson says, cool, using Azure Cloud? No, we don't use Azure Cloud. We actually have a way to go without using Azure Cloud, and we do not use AWS or Amazon to tap into these quantum computers. We found there was a gentleman that I met at CES when I went to the conference on quantum computing after they had a big crash back in January when NVIDIA CEO Jensen made those comments that crashed the market like 50% or whatever. And I flew out to Vegas right after the announcement. I think a couple hours after it, we went to that conference where he said those things. And one of the next things they were talking about is, it was at that conference, was in quantum computing. And I went to the quantum computing track that Jensen didn't go to, which I think he should have gone to. Obviously, he picked up and he learned after that, because very shortly after that, and just literally this last week, NVIDIA introduces the NVQ link connecting quantum and GPU computing for 17 quantum builders. So they just basically allowed quantum computers. A year later, almost, Jensen flips the script and he's saying, NVIDIA, you can now have the quantum link for Rigetti and IonQ and others to plug them into data centers with GPUs. How cool is that, right? So literally it's direct from NVIDIA. They just released this article. So quantum computing's obviously in a good spot now. But anyway, I go to this conference. It was really cool. It was the first experience. We had just a couple thousand subscribers. We weren't at even 10,000, I don't think. I think we were maybe under 5,000. And they gave us a media pass. And we got to go and meet all of these companies. And I remember it was the first conference really I've been to. And I went and I got to meet IonQ and IBM and some Rigetti people. And I was talking with them. And I met this gentleman who specializes in providing solutions to utilize quantum technology. And his whole thing was, I want more people using quantum. They should be using it. But it's such a small net. And this was not even a packed room. Like, nobody was here. There was probably under about 30 or 40 people at this event. And I remember sitting down and they had a stage. It was a nice place, but we were basically all having a conversation about the announcements that Jensen made, and we're just talking about the quantum and where it's at. And this gentleman says, "Yeah, I think the issue, and this is I totally agreed with him. I said, the question I asked everybody, I said, what do you think is keeping mainstream people from realizing the power of quantum and where it's going to right now?" And they said, well, frankly, it's kind of hard to use quantum. Like you have to, if you don't know Azure, like there's a question, someone, are you using Azure to tap into the quantum computers? Like if you don't know it, if you don't know how to use it, it's going to be pretty a big struggle, right? And so most people, if you ask anybody, even if they're very technical, and this is what he said, he went, if you ask anybody, even if they're very technical and they go to the probably the nicest university or they work at Google or Facebook, and you ask them about connecting quantum into what they're doing, they would have no idea how to do it. And I thought that's funny because um, isn't that like just the number one thing that we need to do in order to grow this? And they're like, well, that's what we do. And so literally this guy, he said, this is what we do is we help you connect to the quantum computer. And they had this whole challenge of how to connect. And so I was able to connect with somebody there that does that specifically. And so fast forward, we didn't have to go through, the Amazon or the Azure or any of those like um, different big tech companies. We're able to go kind of with a cool little partnership to bring quantum into our financial analysis here. And so yeah, very soon. I'm thinking probably the next day or so it should be fully operational. I was just talking with Ryan, and he said that we were actually already using it today, um, and it was showing the recent jobs just a minute ago. But I think at this point it's not quite showing. But yeah, in the near term, in the future, when it comes to the future chart widget, in a very short amount of time, we're talking probably in the next few days, you'll be able to select IonQ or Rigetti to run what is already an AI analysis projection through a quantum computer to get out of which of the time frames that are projected. So let's say you have the next 3 months here, or the next year with Redwire bullish, the next 3 months. You have different projections for all these different time frames, and each time frame projection considers different variables. So like if you're looking at the next 6 months of projections, you're not going to look at the 1 minute candlestick or the 15-minute candlestick on a technical chart. And you're probably not going to care about the article that came out about the government shutdown, because you know that that's not going to be a thing in 6 months from now. And so, but that would be really important, and that's going to be more of a weight in the 1 hour, the 4 hour, the 1 day. And so the 3 month, the 6 month, the 1 year, those types of things that are analyzed, you're going to look at the 4 hour or the 1 day candlestick on longer time frames. And so, but in doing analysis on each time frame using the AI models, you're also now there's a level of, okay, well, based on that and the algorithm, not algorithm, we don't do algorithmic trading, it's value driven, but there is somewhat of a way, like here's all the steps we go through to do the analysis, where it kind of becomes like this algorithm of steps. And so essentially we run all of the time frame projections into the quantum computer for you to get a fairly fast, see exactly how fast it is, output from the qubits. And so let's get the superconducting or the quantum processing units to give us which time frame, according to all the shots and running the calculations, is the most likely to be the time frame that is accurate, or the projection that's most likely. And so that's kind of where we're going to use the quantum tech. And as I explained it to you, Um, I don't know how many people are tuned in here, but we're already like, if we have even like 100 people right now is what, just around that are using this, and we're seeing a lot of logins every day. If we just have 100 people that are using this, the amount of time that they'll save will easily be like a couple hours a week, which probably come out, yeah, a couple hours a month probably in research, and which probably come out to hundreds of hours a year. So let's just say, I don't know, 500 hours a year that people save on research of stocks in their analysis times 100, like that right there is, what is that, 50,000 hours of saved time for people. So like, I don't know how many people are tuned in right now, but I think it's going to be pretty groundbreaking. I'm pretty excited to get it out to everybody here, and our beta testers are using it right now. And we haven't done any back testing for the quantum yet. We're just adding it, Walter. So, but as soon as we have that out, we'll have some more back testing done at some point. But yeah. Awesome, guys. Well, hey, I appreciate you all. Thanks so much for tuning in. And if there was one thing here on the channel, which is really cool to see the views, and we look at, the last 365 days, we got over 3 million people tuned in. And it's been very, very cool to see the spikes, the valleys, the everything else. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and letting us hit this 30K sub point here. And finally, when it comes to your thoughts, let me know down the comment section below what you're watching and which companies you're most excited about, as we just went over some top companies, including Big Bear. That was really very exciting. And again, if you want to get StockMate, you can get StockMate, our daily live trading sessions. Tune in at Market Open. We go live Monday through Friday every single day. You get our targets for the week. You get to see our entries, see our exits in the different stocks and assets that we hold and buy. And you get a free t-shirt when you join. You can get StockMate and get lifetime access, but you can also get it for free. You can get the live sessions for free. You can get the 65 lessons of learning materials for free. You can get the community for free and the t-shirt for free as a bonus when you unlock the machine. So if you want to unlock 1-year access to the machine, it's going to be the first link in the description. And I would love to have you as a part of our training next week, because next Thursday, we're having our training that we have each week on the machine. So if you want to use it, you want to know how to use it, how to do some of these analysis things we just did. Again, the Thursday training happens next week, and we have a special offer for the beta access. So you can get beta access before at a fraction of the cost, because you're getting it before it's generally and publicly available there. So again, it's the first link below, and there's some bonuses, including StockMate. And I would love to give you a call if you decide to get into the machine. Appreciate you all. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.